I want to spend the night together.
Hi. Welcome to another movie plot. Spoilers ahead. Receiving the large coffee is poet Charlie Mackenzie, who discusses his recent breakup with his best friend and undercover cop Tony Giardino. Charlie believes his last girlfriend stole his cat. The one before then was in the mafia, and before then smelled like beef vegetable soup. Tony assures him that he is just afraid of commitment, always finding any reason to break up with a girl. Charlie is a beat poet and uses his breakups as material for his work, cussing out his lovers to his regular crowd. The next day at a San Fran butcher's, Charlie meets owner Harriet Michaels, who he purchases some haggis from for his Scottish father.
Can I help you?
Harriet asks him if there will be anything else, and although attracted to her, he says no. Visiting his family for a soccer match, we meet parents Stuart and May, and younger brother William. Tony and Stuart watch the game as Charlie and his mom discuss his most recent breakup. May laments that she liked this one more than his other girlfriends, and reads stories to him from her tabloids.
The honeymoon murderer.
Warning him about a bride known as Mrs. X, the honeymoon murderer, who started killing her husbands with an axe in Atlantic City. Identifying two of her victims as a Russian martial arts expert and a plumber named Ralph. When the night wraps up, May gives the boys kisses as they leave. And the next day we hear from Tony that he isn't satisfied being a cop. He complains that he thought there would be more action like in the movies, and that he wishes his captain was more of a hard-ass.
Hey, somebody needs a hug.
Charlie goes back to the butcher shop to ask Harriet out, but when seeing that it's rush hour, he offers to help. Charlie makes her laugh throughout the day and the two begin to flirt, closing the shop up to continue the date.
Nice.
While Charlie jokingly asks her how many people has she brutally murdered, Harriet just says what's brutal to one isn't brutal to the next. Walking her home, Charlie hears that she can also speak Russian. He then notices at her apartment that she once lived in Atlantic City and has oriental weapons displayed on the wall, which she says belong to an old friend. As the two chat, Harriet switches personality back and forth between sweet and serious, confusing Charlie, but when she says she wants him to stay the night, he can't resist. During the night though, Harriet calls out Ralph in her sleep, which she says is just a female friend. In the morning, Charlie wakes to no sight of Harriet, but meets her unconventional sister Rose instead, saying that the two of them own the apartment together, but that Harriet comes and goes as she pleases. Rose then leaves Charlie, telling him to just be careful. Tony takes Charlie for a tour of Alcatraz with his favorite guide Vicky, where during it Charlie proceeds to tell his friend just how much he likes this girl, and assures him that he won't screw it up this time. Vicky then out of nowhere tells the group about Machine Gun Kelly's bitch, how he had his eyes removed by Kelly and had the inmates take turns pissing in his ocular cavities.
This way to the cafeteria!
Harriet and Charlie begin growing closer over time, with Charlie getting along with Rose and the two going on double dates with Tony. Harriet says she is beginning to feel safe with Charlie, like they could spend the rest of their lives together. Charlie decides to introduce her to his parents, where she is adored by his mom, who says she has the face of an angel. Then almost breaks Stuart's arm when her martial arts training kicks in, but he likes her because of it.
I like this one, Charlie.
May takes Harriet to look at a photo album of Charlie, while he goes to the bathroom and begins to read his mother's tabloids.
Later much!
Noticing all the connections between Harriet and Mrs. X, like the martial arts training, Atlanta, and Ralph, he begins to suspect she may be a serial killer. Charlie becomes fearful of everything Harriet does around him, and asks Tony to look into her, who just assumes he is looking for an excuse to cut and run like every other time. He tells Charlie that the killer was known to sing the song Only You, which she never has, but has an officer check out the names anyway. It turns out they are presumed to have just moved away with their wives, with no reason for alarm. That doesn't make Charlie feel much safer though, as he remains on edge, and assumes she is going to find a way to kill him like the others. While trying to put an ad in the newspaper for his parents' anniversary, Charlie hears that the body of a Ralph Elliott was discovered,
Found in a sewer.
and that the wife was never found. With that being the final straw, Charlie takes Harriet to a public place for safety and breaks up with her, not giving her the real reason. And just like that, she becomes another one of his poems. Sometime later he receives a call from Detective Tony, who informs him that someone has confessed to the murder of Ralph. Ecstatic with the news, Charlie races over to Harriet's to win her back, getting startled by Rose as he arrives.
Hi, Charlie.
He apologizes to her and tells her he loves her, which she replies back that she also loves him but that he blew it. So Charlie brings out the big guns. He begins reciting her a poem atop the roof about wanting her back, which works. The two make up, and Harriet explains away some of her history when she introduces him to a woman she knows named Ralph, to which Charlie is overjoyed to meet. When attending the Cock of the North pub for May and Stuart's anniversary, Charlie hears his father's speech and how much he still adores his mother. So he decides right then and there to ask Harriet to marry him.
No.
Which she says no. After he tells her how much he needs her and wants a family together, She agrees. But while at the wedding she hesitates and keeps everyone guessing, before finally saying I do. The whole clan attend the wedding ceremony, with May getting a death grip on Tony, and Stuart partying with the bagpiper until he drops.
I think we have a piper who's down.
Suddenly Charlie and Tony hear Harriet begin singing the song Only You, the same song sung by Mrs. X. Calling Charlie over it begins to make Tony concerned, but her new husband just brushes it off as a coincidence. On the way to their honeymoon, Charlie says he will be the best husband, to which she seems concerned about, but not too much. When arriving at a secluded mountain hotel for their getaway, Harriet begins acting suspicious, and we see that she still keeps her ex-husband's rings. At dinner she doesn't give him a moment to breathe, even watching him from a distance as he goes to the bathroom. Back at the police precinct, Tony is approached by a much more assertive captain, demanding he drop the Ralph case as he dons an angry moniker. He says that the confessed killer is actually a compulsive liar, and the suspect is still at large.
Good for you. That was so much better.
Tony sends a photo of Harriet to the known associates of the missing husbands, who all identify her as the wife. With phone lines to the hotel down due to a storm, Tony charters a plane to save his friend, though his pilot keeps falling asleep on the flight.
Land the plane!
He manages to survive the trip and call Charlie locally from the ground. Catching him during dinner, he warns him that Harriet really is Mrs. X, but the hotel phone line is knocked out and the line goes dead. Harriet tries to dance with her new husband, but the power goes out.
You gotta help me! I'm married up!
Coming back on to the hotel staff, forcing him into the honeymoon suite for their first night together.
Hey!
Charlie tries to ask the bellboy to join the two for a nightcap, but he gets the wrong impression. Harriet then drags him inside, where she coincidentally has an axe close by. Trying to tell him that she was once married, he quickly grabs the axe for protection, but the power goes out and she disarms him. After locking Harriet in the closet, Charlie discovers a letter purportedly written by him to Harriet, telling her that he couldn't handle the commitment.
Charlie?
Rose appears wielding an axe and reveals herself as the Mrs. X killer. Feeling that Harriet's husbands were taking her sister from her, she would kill them on their honeymoon and leave letters behind. Charlie flees from Rose out of the window and onto the roof of the hotel, but Rose chases him around it wielding the axe. Harriet believed that each husband abandoned her, which is what made her so inseparable tonight. Tony hitches a ride to the hotel with a random citizen, and bursts into the honeymoon suite to find Harriet locked in the closet. Thinking her to still be guilty, he begins to arrest her, and fires shots through the roof to shut her up, causing Charlie to fall off onto the gutter and becoming easy pickings for Rose. After a few swings at him though, the axe gets stuck and the chase continues. Having been chased to the front of the hotel, Tony and all the police see who Mrs. X really is, but Charlie throws her off the roof and catches her. Hanging on to him, she is finally arrested by Tony, in his first big bust as a detective. The two newlyweds continue their life as a happy couple together.
So love.
And the movie ends.
Let's get pissed!
So I Married an Axe Murderer is a 1993 romantic black comedy directed by Thomas Schlamme.
Oh, wait, not now. Not now.
Shut it!
The French direct English translation of the title is When Harriet Axes Charlie, a parody of the 1989 rom-com When Harry Met Sally. A miniseries called The Pentaverate was released in 2022 by Myers based on the conspiracy theories mentioned in this film.
The Pentaverate.
Charlie was originally written for Chevy Chase, with Woody Allen and Martin Short also considered for the role. Mike Myers was offered the lead role on the success of Wayne's World, and took time off from Saturday Night Live to film.
Look at the insensitive man! That's what they're paying you for!
When the actors did the first read-through, Myers played Stewart's part, and the filmmakers enjoyed it so much they let him play both roles.
We have a piper down. I repeat, a piper is down.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more.
God. Oh, you want my body? Get the sick,